Welcome back, Liverpool. Liverpool? Oh, I'm getting confused. Boxing fans, to another weekday boxing talk looking at this week's big fight between Ortiz and Bohachuck. What a barn burner that's going to be. Stay tuned for that and more. Welcome back, fans. So, obviously, last weekend we had a great card, fantastic. And this is the one thing you can definitely say about the Saudi cards: very good matchmaking. There's no easy fight, there's no cherry pick opponents, there's no easy fight that's easy to predict. You had obviously a fight where Andy Ruiz, the favorite, really lost to Jarrell Miller. You had a fight where obviously Cruz lost his first title defense. You had a fight where obviously the next great American heavyweight was knocked the fuck out. I mean, people that know boxing knew that he was in with a real tough opponent. I talked about that in the week building up and talking about how it's going to be probably the best fight on the card. And I think it was. And even the Bud Crawford fight versus Madrimov. Some people felt Madrimov deserved to win, and some people felt that it was a very competitive fight and it should have at least been a draw. If you watched my video, you know I felt Crawford won by 2 or 3 rounds because Madarov just wasn't busy enough. He was feinting and feinting and feinting, but not letting his hands go. You can't win fights by not engaging, right? And people said that, well, Crawford was the one that wasn't the champion and he needed to engage. It's funny how people will take that narrative when it's a fighter they want to lose, right? Yet when we talk about that consistently across boxing platforms, people say, no, it's based on fucking the 10-point must system. Well, then stay true to it. I believe you got to beat the champion. And in truth, I believe Bud Crawford beat the champion. I felt it was kind of ironic that Crawford got very little to no credit for his great body work against Madrimov, whereas Devin Haney, who only was effective with body work towards Lomachenko, won a fight based solely on his body work. Yet that fight was not even close to being as competitive. Like, Lomachenko won that fight. Bud Crawford won this fight. Madrimov didn't throw enough, wasn't active enough, was too tentative, afraid to get countered. Bud Crawford stepped to him, and the bigger, stronger guy basically did what Canelo Alvarez did when he fought Floyd Mayweather: chased. And by doing that, never established his greatness. With Lomachenko Haney, Lomachenko asserted everything. He was the one having big moments, winning conclusive rounds, not Devin Haney. Devin Haney never won a conclusive round in that fight. Any fight you could give Devin Haney, you basically could have gave Lomachenko as well, right? He landed good body shots, but yet people pick and choose when they're going to use body work as a scoring criteria, right? It is what it is. But today, obviously, we're talking about a great card. Unfortunately, this fight was supposed to be on last week's fight card, and it would have really made that card great. Bohachuck, well, it wasn't supposed to be Bohachuck, obviously, back then. It was supposed to be Tim Tszyu versus Ortiz, which would have been fucking dynamite, right? A real crazy matchup. A fight that, most people would have felt would have been the main event on most cards. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. So people like myself and others hope that a replacement opponent would still keep that date on the card, Ortiz Bohachuck. And based on the fact that it's a week later, it very easily could have been on last week's fight card, which would have really made that whole card unbelievable. Unbelievable. But when all is said and done, it was a very good card. You can see why Saudi Arabia is happy with what they're doing. Unfortunately, boxing fans are a fickle fucking bunch, and they don't fucking like anything. I heard people literally praising the fact that apparently that card lost $10 million. This just shows you where the American boxing fan base is right now, and why it's probably better for the majority of boxing events to happen outside the US. because the American fan base is just not fucking there. They can't support a great card like this with Eminem fucking in it and everything else. If you can't support this card, I don't know what fucking card you're ever going to support, because you're never really going to be that excited, right? Unless you're a fanboy who's specifically pushing a narrative and you're going to support it on the outside only because you're trying to prop up a fighter, i.e. Tank Davis or i.e. Canelo Alvarez. But the reality is, this was a great card, and I guarantee it's a better card than Canelo Alvarez's upcoming card. And whenever Tank Davis gets back in the ring, I guarantee it's a fucking better card than that Tank Davis card as well, even before it's unfolded. I mean, the Canelo Alvarez card, it's a typical PBC bullshit, right? A bunch of fucking fights no one gives a shit about. No one wants to see fucking Rolly Romero. No one wants to see Lara versus fucking Danny Garcia. Nobody wants to see those guys. They're fucking not relevant in today's boxing climate. Canelo Berlanga, I don't hate that fight. I think fighting a hungry lion like Berlanga after fighting a hungry lion in Munguia, both good fights. Obviously, it's not David Benavidez, but some people wanted to act as if sort of David Morrell was an opponent that Canelo should have fought. But what has David Morrell done more than Berlanga or Munguia for that fact? Nothing. Nothing. He's not a better opponent, and he's definitely not marketable like they are, right? And that's the reality. When you come down to this kind of situation, the reason why Berlanga is getting the fight and the fucking Cuban guy who just became the IBF champion didn't get the fight is because it's marketable. Canelo fighting a Cuban William fucking Skull who nobody's ever fucking literally watched is not a marketable fight. You might as well fucking drop that IBF title in the garbage because it's fucking irrelevant. Irrelevant. Because whoever fucking Skull fights, it ain't going to be anyone we care about. Shevchenko guy, no one's going to watch that fight. Shevchenko and Skull, where's that fight going to be done? They better do it in fucking Germany or somewhere in Europe, because otherwise, literally nobody is going to fucking watch that crap. Literally nobody, right? There's far better fighters at 168 that would put on stylistically far better fights than either one of those two fucking guys. But if the IBF wants them to be their champion and get paid $20,000 as a result, good for them. Congratulations. You know, Canelo don't fucking need you. And just like we've seen now with the whole Saudi Arabia, Turkey al-Sheikh, Canelo Alvarez back and forth. I mean, this is basically because of Turkey al-Sheikh. Too arrogant, too used to being in control, too used to being able to use his money and wealth to get what he wants. But Canelo Alvarez doesn't need him. He's a guy that has $100 million in the bank, maybe more. He's fucking set, his family's set for fucking the inevitable future. They don't need Saudi Arabian money. Of course, nobody would be disappointed to collect Saudi Arabian money. Turkey al-Sheikh, throw some my way. Super chat. But at the same time, you're not talking about guys that are desperate for a payday, i.e. a David Benavidez, right? You know, dudes like this, i.e. Bud Crawford, who, you know, unfortunately, because of being blocked and blackballed by the PBC for years, ended up missing out on a lot of big potential financial paydays, as well as losing the Manny Pacquiao fight when he was part of Top Rank, right? Those things potentially hurt his overall value before he retires from the sport. So he might as well cash out while he can. And that's cool. I don't have a problem with it. But you see guys like Canelo in a situation where he doesn't need Turkey. Tank Davis, he feels he doesn't need him. Anui just walked away from the fight card on AJ in London, which would have been a huge card in England, and he would have been underlying under Anthony Joshua, Daniel Dubois. Huge fight. Would have been great globally for Anui, but at the same time, he doesn't need him. We'll be talking more about his upcoming card later on this weekend. But it's a good card, very solid. For a Japanese fight card, it is very good, very, very good. And with Anui putting on cards like that, pulling in big money and entertaining his fan base, why does he need to fucking worry about Saudi Arabian money? He's making millions and millions of dollars already in the Japanese market, right? where he's a superstar. If he goes fight in Saudi Arabia, it's not going to help build up his home market. If he goes fights in England, where he's already fought in Scotland once, it's not necessarily going to build up his fan base that much more, where he's going to make more money on pay-per-views at fighting in Japan. Right? So I can understand why all three of those guys are going in their own direction. They're not in a position where they need to do what Saudi Arabia is dictating. And I'm happy with Saudi Arabia and the influence, the money, and the fights we're getting as a result of Saudi Arabia. So I'm not shitting on Saudi Arabia. But at the same time, I think fighters also need a little bit of individuality. If they don't want to buy into it, they don't need to. Right? You shouldn't feel forced to do something you're not comfortable with. And if there comes a day where that becomes the norm, that will be a negative towards boxing. And of course, Saudi Arabian control of the sport of boxing, if that inevitably is what happens. But when that day happens, we'll talk about it. At this point, there's nothing to do but say congratulations. Saudi Arabia has been putting on great fights. But let's see who's inside and talk it up. Iceman, salute. What's up, my man? I had it a draw. Salute in the building. Hard Recoil. Drunk Irishman's also in the house. Drunk Irishman, what did you have the Crawford Madrimov fight? Hard Recoil, what did you have the fight? I mean, giving it a draw, I think you're really, really looking for ways to benefit Madrimov. Because when it comes down to it, Madrimov just wasn't busy enough. Even the right hands, people were saying, well, he was landing every single right hand he was throwing. No, because if you watch my live, I was calling him to throw his right hand way more than he was because he wasn't throwing a jab. He wasn't able to get a jab off. So he might as well use his fucking right hand as his lead punch because it was effective against the left-hand fighter. And when he threw it, he was successful. But he was afraid of what counterpunch was coming back. So he didn't want to use it so much where he became predictable, right? So the problem was that was the only punch he was fucking landing. But Crawford was countering him with crisp shots, hitting with great body shots. He literally was landing his jab. He was just really controlling the fight. I know one guy was more that this reminds me of my friend Denny Pang, Canadian-Korean kid. We would play basketball together, and that would be him at the top of the key, dribbling the ball. He'd be fucking feinting, crossing over. He'd be fucking pulling out every Allen Iverson move he ever fucking learned. But yet he would not progress the ball 1 foot. You could just stand there like this. And he would be shadow dancing to his own fucking beat, never fucking getting anywhere. And inevitably, you step back, allow him to take his jump shot. His jump shot was trash. He fucking barely able to hit it. So he wasn't hard to defend because, the only thing he was going to do was eventually, maybe, potentially, take you to the hole. But the chances of that happening, it might have been 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 moves fucking down before he actually did it. By that time, everybody on the fucking floor would lose fucking interest. That's what Madrimov was doing, right? Not going anywhere. So, Zaki, what's up? What did you score the fight? 8-4 or 7-5? Drunk Irishman had it 7-5. Madrimov just didn't throw enough. Didn't throw enough, man. Close fight, but Bud came back in the later rounds. Right man won, for sure. I was half asleep during the fight, so I don't know the scores, but I thought Crawford won. Ireland is at home for women's boxing right now. No men, though. They got men. It's just not dominant men. Israel landed more power punches on a better percentage than Crawford. Didn't land that much, low percentage. You're looking for ways to justify your scorecard. Because at the end of the day, you still have to fucking win a round. The biggest problem with the Olympics, and I'll break it down for you. This whole bullshit with this woman-man thing. Who gives a fuck? This has become the only fucking thing I've seen anyone talk about with the fucking Olympics. Literally nobody except me even talked about the Olympics before it started. And literally now, all we have is this bullshit. I don't give a fuck. I don't really care about women's boxing, and I don't really care about two men born as women who are women or men or fucking who knows what they fucking are. I don't care. What I want to see is more fucking coverage of actual boxing, because God only knows who the fuck won any event. And the Olympics is so shit, it's impossible to actually fucking watch a complete fucking match, right? Like the Olympics has really fucking come to a point where it's just shit now. Before, you used to be able to watch the Olympics for free, literally fucking everywhere, because they make so much money. They don't need to fucking rape fucking the fan by trying to make you pay. Now they do it, and the coverage is garbage. Straight up fucking garbage. It comes down to more controversy with a stupid opening ceremony and fucking two fucking men, transgendered, whoever knows what they are, getting most of the attention. At the end of the day, this is what fucking everyone's going to remember. Yet who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? I don't care about either one of them. I don't really. The only woman boxer I know is the Irish girl. Exactly. And she's guaranteed probably to win a gold, right? Did she win a gold? Outside of that, she's the only one anybody knows or cares about. Literally. Where are we? Crawford didn't do enough to take the belts. That's bullshit. It's bullshit. He did more than enough, because literally Madrimov didn't do fucking nearly enough. The bigger man fighting super passive. He fought like Canelo did when he fought fucking Floyd. Instead of utilizing his size, his strength, and his natural benefits, he fucking played second fiddle to the sharper, better fighter. After the open ceremony, I haven't watched. Too much for me. What's up, Sean? What's up, Drew Titan's dad? Same. 78 is now all of a sudden on Bud's jock. He was the main one hating on Terence Crawford. Well, that's the thing with these dudes, right? They're fucking full of shit. You can spend fucking 5 years shitting on Bud Crawford, all to dick ride Errol Spence, because Errol Spence is throwing you some money to help boost him up. And now you're going to play the race card and fucking, oh, look, typical, the black fighter's not getting respect. Yeah, by black fucking boxing fans. The biggest fucking people that were anti-Bud Crawford have been black American boxing fans. Literally. They've been the biggest group of people not supporting him, not buying his pay-per-views, disrespecting him, shitting on his resume, and downplaying his career. Historically, she won the gold medal history for Ireland, becoming a two-time Olympic gold medalist. Good, nice. I figured she would win. Literally, she's the only woman that I actually knew. What does Bud do at 154? Zoo has a fight. Funduro's supposed to fight Spence. Even if Virgil looks good this weekend, it's for an interim. Come on, Zaki, get real. Tim Tszyu is fighting for that IBF title. Once he wins that title, maybe money from Saudi Arabia will dictate him to fight Bud Crawford, as we thought originally was going to be the play, because that is by and far the biggest fight at the weight class. But if he does go on to fight Funduro for 3 of the fucking 4 belts, that ain't bad either, because now, of course, the belts will become that much easier for Bud Crawford to collect them down the road. For Bud, Virgil Ortiz, a guy who blatantly ducked him at 147 pounds. If he beats Surrey Bolchuk, that's just going to help elevate that fight even more. They're both on the same time frame, literally 1 week apart, so it's an easy fight to make. You could easily do that fight probably in December or January, right? I think Turkey was talking about potentially doing a big fight with Crawford in February. So you could do Ortiz-Crawford in February for that title, and that's a huge matchup. And that ultimately is what America loves, a black versus a Mexican, right? Play the race game, people going to buy it, they love it, there you go. They're going to eat that shit up fucking quick. And then you have Funduro rematch fucking Tim Tszyu win, and then have Tim Tszyu versus Crawford, for Crawford to become a 3-time undisputed champion. That shit's fucking historical. And those are quality opponents. Madrimov, who potentially is the best out of all of them, Ortiz, and then Tim Tszyu. You cannot really criticize Bud Crawford if he faces those fighters back to back to back. I will be super impressed by that movement. I'm pretty sure Clarissa was a two-time Olympic gold medalist. He said Irish gold medalist. Heard that Bud even lost 10 million. Bud didn't lose 10 million. The fight, the whole card lost 10 million. Bud didn't lose 10 million. He still got paid. Rank those 150 fighters in order on who you think is the best. Madrimov, Zoo, Ortiz. I think you got it right there. I think Madrimov, Zoo, Ortiz, and Crawford obviously is number one. What's up? Also amazing. I think it's a good division. Also, you got Charles Conwell. I mean, obviously Lubin, who's still there. Fonduro is right there. Who's the tough Mexican kid? Mendoza, who's a good fighter. You got quite a few other people. The 154-pound division is deep. It's got a lot of good quality fighters. The Puerto Rican kid, right, who potentially could really be something, say this time in 2025, after he gets like another maybe fight under his belt, maybe two, then he's really going to be ready for these kind of big dates, these big fights. But at this point, it's a good card. And with Bud Crawford there, if Errol Spence comes back, if Charlo comes back, fucking Christ, man. The best division in boxing. Easily. Laugh out loud, the LDBC is having a meet and greet in Atlanta this week. Want to go with me and crash the party? Fuck. I think I'm persona non grata. I don't know if I want to go there. You're allowed to carry guns in Atlanta. But, an LDBC meet and greet. Imagine how fucking sickening that is, where people are literally fucking acting like 78 is fucking Turkey Al-Sheikh. Oh my God. Fucking, oh. Who could Canelo possibly face in Japan in December? Who cares? He could fight fucking William Skull to win back the IBF title in fucking Japan. Like, if he fights in Japan, it doesn't matter who his opponent is. He's going to get paid big money to go fight in Japan, just like Tyson did. And then he can go fight Chris Eubank in the UK. William Skull to win back his undisputed title in Japan. Chris Eubank in fucking the UK. Or maybe he'll take a more entertaining opponent in Japan, because there's quite a few guys that are obviously more entertaining than fucking William Skull. 78 kept talking about you. I know. 78 Alashika. Canelo is high maintenance. Turkey needs to forget about him. Well, they need to forget about each other. They don't need each other. Turkey wants Canelo so he can do big fights. He wants to use Canelo because Canelo is one of the biggest names in boxing. But at the same time, Canelo doesn't need Saudi Arabia, right? Just like Anui doesn't. Just like apparently fucking Gervonta Tank Davis doesn't either. Could you do Mbili versus Canelo in Canada? They have a big French population. I think that would be a fucking dynamite fight. I just wonder if, like, obviously you could do it pay-per-view through North America, right? Canada and the States. So it's still the same as doing it in America, pay-per-view wise. It's on the same time frame. So it doesn't impact the pay-per-view at all. But I just wonder if Canada's got a big enough boxing population with our population to really fill out a big venue for that kind of fight. But as far as fucking the matchup, oh my God, what a fight that would fucking be. My God, that would be a fucking great one. You imagine, I know people are shitting on the fights Canelo's taking, but you fight Munguia, Barlanga, and Mbili. Obviously, not one of those three fighters has a huge resume or huge legacy at this point. But they're all three young fighters, right, that potentially could go on to have very good careers. And down the road, those two wins could potentially look fucking great for Canelo. Turkey Al-Sheikh will pay you to go with me, but you have to hold his hand. Yeah, that's probably the case, right? Canadian women are beautiful, so easy to talk to, unlike American girls. French Canadian girls. I think Mbili stops Derevchenko in a couple of weeks. That's going to be a great matchup. Obviously, it's a very good fight for Mbili because Derevchenko obviously is one of those guys who's been in with all the great fighters. So depending on how you look against him, that will really impact what people think about your upside. Who's Caleb Plant fighting? I don't even know who that fucking guy is. Like, that is by far one of the worst fucking cards ever. But no surprise, a PBC card, all right? Fucking Lara and Garcia, Rolly Romero against who? I don't care. And fucking Caleb Plant against a dude that, what? Who? Literally with all the great fighters we've just mentioned at 168 pounds, he's literally fighting a guy I've never fucking heard of. I mean, let's just quickly look here. BoxRec. Let me just go to 168 first, just so we can check that out. Like, we will scroll through and you tell me when I get to the fucking guy who he's fighting, because I might not even notice. So there we go. Alvarez, Munguia, Mbili, Berlanga, Andrade, Iglesias, Saggio, Pacheco, Barinian, my Canadian brethren, Shishkin, Derevchenko, Ciliac, Steve Nelson, Luke Plantic, Zach Parker, Lester Martinez. I like Lester Martinez. I would like to see him versus fucking Christian Mbili. Petro Ivanovic, Bek Melikuziev, William Skull. William Skull's ranked 19th, but he's the guy the IBF fucking gave an IBF title to. Beck Nuremberg, Gustav Tamba, Callum Simpson, Pedro blah blah blah, some Namibian fighter, Jacob Bank, some guy I never heard of, Ali Aklemendorf, Bacteus, McCrory, a German kid, Jeffries, Zahn, Zuko, Elijah Garcia is a good fighter, but that loss, right? There he is, number 36, Trevor fucking McCumbee, 28-0, 21 KOs, 31-year-old fucking guy. I don't even know if I've ever seen him fight. He fought a guy 17-3, 44-10, 41-13, 20-15, 27-8, 25-6-2, 12-9, 9-7. Fuck me, man. Like, literally, this dude hasn't fought fucking anybody. And there's a lot of people to fight at 168. And this guy's literally fought fucking no one. No one. Literally nobody. But nobody's going to say Plant's fighting a bum, because all the people that are PBC fanboys, they're not going to fucking say anything negative to PBC. I saw Fulton is coming back. Not sure if it's on the Nello undercard. It's probably on the undercard. But yet, at that division, 126, you could put him in with a really good opponent, but they're probably going to throw him in with no one. Kelly Harrington. Yes, we've talked about it. Sean, let's go Virgil. Matt Chad. Alessia Iglesias is fighting on a Mbili undercard, so that could be a matchup maybe. Let's pray, right? Could you imagine Iglesias and Mbili? There's so many great matchups at 168 that fucking, in truth, are the kind of fights that you and me would love. The problem is, does it really generate a lot of money? I mean, if Turkey Al-Sheikh is funding it, then these are the kind of quality fights you figure you'd get. Real 50-50 type of matchups where you don't really know who to pick. But other than that, like, you know, promoters wouldn't put either one of those guys in against each other because you're not going to make a lot of money and it's too dangerous. The Tavern is in the building. I like Canelo, but man, that card is terrible. And putting on a pay-per-view makes it even worse. Facts. Plant fighting a drug cheat. Is McCumbee a drug cheat? Yeah. Well, the truth is, this is what we've come to expect from the PBC. These kind of cards. Very, very one-sided cherry pick fights and old fucking dudes that fucking have long fucking moved through the sport that no one cares about anymore. U.S. basketball got upset today. Game 3 versus Shut up. Did they really lose to Serbia? Are you telling me the truth? Truthfully, I'm sad Canada lost to France because we beat France in the prelim type of games. But the problem is we don't have any big men, right? And I heard we got in foul trouble, and that was basically the end of it. PBC is trash. I was asking, I'm not sure, but I heard something about it. I'm not sure. I haven't seen anything, but I predict US versus Germany gold medal round. That's what most people predict. But it's a shame Canada's not even going to be in the bronze medal. We've got more NBA players than any other team except for the US. But unfortunately, everybody's a fucking guard and a wing. Canada, bad loss. Yeah. Well, I mean, and the thing is, we don't have the big men. Yeah, Jamal Murray, I think he looked like he was playing injured. He didn't look good during the preseason, fucking anything. He hasn't really looked very good at all. I don't even think he was starting. I think they were starting three other guys at the forward position instead of him. What's his face? The defensive player for Oak City. Of course, Oak City's main guard. And then what's his face that's from New York but now plays for Toronto Raptors. U.S. favored by 16. Germany favored by 16 versus France. Oh, so the game didn't happen yet. Okay. Well, I expect the States to win because, come on, man. Serbia is a great player, but not a great team. It's going to be hard for one player to beat the squad that the States has. The States is deep, man. They're deep. But where are we? Gobert is so bad, he is getting benched for France. Really? Wow, yeah. He can't hit a jump shot, right? So he's kind of useless. Drew Titan's father, I don't think Drew Titan had or knew his father. Well, his father ran away when he saw his son was fucking such a tool, and he didn't want to be associated with him. And that was probably the smartest move he ever made, because not wearing a condom was definitely not fucking the best move of his career. Having us fucking have to deal with fucking Drew Titan our whole fucking life, man, what a shit show that is. That guy is a fucking douchebag. And if you go to the LDBC fucking meet and greet, you'll get to shake hands with him. Max Kuckerman is awesome. Awesome. So let's take a look at this card that obviously is happening this weekend. We got two good cards, so that's excellent. Something to be excited about. But let's get away from that Caleb Plant shit because it's making me puke in my mouth. So there we go. So Virgil Ortiz versus fucking Surrey Bohachuck. 21-0 versus 24-1. This is going to be a great matchup. This isn't exactly Ortiz versus Stanionis, a fight that we really were looking forward to at 147, but it ain't fucking that far off. Bohachuck is a very good fighter. Obviously, I don't think he's got the kind of chin that my man has, and definitely I do expect him to get dented in this fight. It's just going to be curious how he gets into this fight. If he tries to be smart early on, use his jab, control the distance, and not get into a firefight with Ortiz early. If he gets into a firefight with Ortiz too early, this fight might be over inside 4 fucking rounds. But outside of that, I think my prediction was Virgil Ortiz by an 8th round TKO. What do you guys think? Do you think that Bohachuck has a chance, or are y'all picking Ortiz with a win? Let's go Ortiz Jr. I'm sorry, guys. Because of me, y'all now have to deal with Drew Titan. Fucking guy. Bohachuck beats Mendoza on what, a week notice? Sure. Yeah. But Mendoza ain't no Virgil Ortiz. Virgil Ortiz is a man with a 21-0 record with 21 knockouts. A very good fighter. A guy that was one of the most hyped prospects in American boxing. Obviously, until he had his little weight issues, right? And obviously, because of that, people don't really know what to say about him now. But obviously, this fight will be a big determination. This is going to be the first fight where he actually has to make 154 pounds. So we'll see if he's able to do that. If not, that dude's career could be done as well. Virgil said he was a tough guy that used to spar. Many red flags, more worried about scale than Surrey. Exactly. Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? He still hasn't come down to 154 to make a fight card yet. Obviously, he's had a few fights to try to sort of build into it, but he's going to have to make the weight and make it comfortably. Or else, what, move to 160? I mean, he could move to 160. It's a weak ass division. But unfortunately for us at 154, we'd be losing one of the most exciting fighters at the weight division. And for him, he'd be going to his third weight division, still never winning a fucking world title. That would be shit. Virgil on Snack, Matt Chad, Bakoli Jang. Who would you take? I would take Bakoli to beat Jang. Jang's engine is just too bad. Bakoli is just going to outwork him as long as he doesn't get knocked out in the first 3 or 4 rounds. I think he's just ultimately going to be too much for Jang and just beat him. Probably maybe stop him late in that fight. 2 1-round fights, not much. One January and one was in April. Exactly. It's hard to determine, right, what to expect from him. Then we got, of course, Gabriel Funduro, 13-0 versus Daniel Asenjo. I will support Funduro with the win, but I expect it to go a decision. What kills me on this card is the women's fights. You got a big gap between fights I want to watch and then 2 fights I don't want to watch. Cecilia Brækhus is fucking 40 years old. I don't need to watch her fight, against Marcelo Corojo. I will pick Brækhus to win by unanimous decision. Then, of course, we got Kenneth Sims Jr. versus Jair Valterra. I got to go with Sims. Charles Conwell versus Zaire Gray. You got to go with Conwell. Like, you look at these fights, and they're not that hard to predict. Eric Priest, an up-and-comer, versus Luke Alonso. Got to go with Priest, right? And there we are. The whole card is done, and I don't think there was one difficult fight to predict on the whole fucking card. Literally. Not one fight that was difficult. That was an easy fucking prediction. Because, unfortunately, the majority of boxing cards are one-sided and just not that interesting. Do you still want to see Wilder fight? I don't care if I see Wilder fight anymore. His last loss, getting his last knocked out like that and beat, it's probably better he just retires gracefully. What's the deal with Crawford's gloves? I heard the ones he was going to use versus Madrimov were already busted up. I heard that his gloves at first were denied. And then obviously I think they were okayed. But I think his team had a problem with Madrimov's gloves, not having enough support or stuff in them. So then he decided, fine, 2 can play that game. So then he switched over and took Madrimov's gloves. So they were both using the same gloves. But then apparently the first pair split. I don't know. But yet the gloves he had historically had split too. So I don't know what the deal is. Maybe he just punches too hard, man. His bony fucking knuckles. Iceman, he is Team Kerr Cunty now. Shit, I like Virgil. Roberts Academy is snack happy, but if all fighters are snack, then all are even. Exactly. Iceman, yep, another busted glove. Do you see Janibek fighting another Can or unify with Adamus? Well, I don't see him fighting with Adamus. It's going to be the typical PBC shit. Maybe they're going to fucking try to stretch out Adamus versus the winner of Lara versus Garcia and try to build it up. As if it's something you could really build up. Just make that shit. And then Janibek, he should be trying to face the dude from the UK, that Middle Eastern kid. That kid is good. Shamram Haraj, that kid is fucking good. Or potentially getting a Chris Eubank fight, right? Bud, Snats and Stackin. Iceman, yep, it's odd. It's odd, but, whatever. Boxing is an odd sport overall. Then we get our other card. I think this card is probably the better card. And one reason it's better, there's no fucking girl fights on it. So that makes it 100% way fucking more exciting. And, of course, you got the one fight that's exciting, the headline fight. But then the underfights underneath are pretty one-sided, where you can expect fucking Charles Conwell and the boys to fucking beat the shit out of their opponents. This card is a little more interesting. A little more, not that much. You also have kind of one-sided matchups as well. We know True School Sports is super stoked about this fight card because Luis Alberto Lopez, 30-2, is defending his IBF World Featherweight title versus Angelo Leo, 24-1. And of course, True School Sports thinks Angelo Leo is the cat's piss and is going to win this and become a world champion now that he's 30 years old. 24-1, 11 KOs. The dude's got no power. Technically, he's not a very good fighter. Alberto Luis Ortiz Lopez, he's not a very technical fighter, but he's a hard motherfucking puncher. We look at what What's-His-Face has done recently. A win over Mike Planini, not a bad win. Eduardo Baez, not a bad win. Obviously, a close majority fight versus Aaron Alamado, and then a loss to Stephen Fulton. He's fighting good opponents, so I can't hate on who he's fighting. But you're stepping in to face Alberto Lopez, 30-2, never been stopped, 17 KOs. Same age as you, and a guy who's super confident right now, and a guy whose power has really been fucking crippling in this big run. Obviously, Joaquin Gonzalez went the distance, but prior to that, he destroyed Michael Conlon, destroyed Josh Warrington, beat him by decision. Obviously beat the Japanese fighter in his last fight, knocking him out in an 8. He's fought good opponents. You got to go back all the way to 2015 when he lost to Ruben Villa, who at the time was an undefeated fighter and had a lot of fucking hype behind him in obviously a fight that was competitive, but got outboxed. And then go all the way back to Abraham Montoya in 2018. And he was a pretty good fighter too back in the day, who beat him by split decision. It's not that I don't think Angelo Leo could win. With his reach and his natural size advantage, I do think he potentially could do what we saw Valenzuela do against Cruz this weekend. The thing is, I just don't think he's fucking as good as Valenzuela. I don't think he can use his jab. I don't think he can box and control distance as well as Valenzuela did. And I think Lopez is a better fighter than Cruz is. So I do expect Cruz to win that fight. Where are we? So Crawford hits harder than heavyweights. Never heard of any gloves busted but Crawford's. Abdullah Mason got a fight on the 17th. His opponents, I believe, dropped out, but they found a replacement. Crawford was caught on camera stacking. Yeah, but stacking is not illegal. Depending on what state you fight, stacking is fucking okay. That's why when people try to hate on Anui, it was like, these dudes are just ignorant. They're ignorant because certain states like Vegas, stacking is legal. You can do that. It protects your knuckles. It doesn't make you punch harder. It just makes sure you don't fucking hurt your hands when you fight. And you could say that's a benefit, but okay. I mean, would we rather guys' hands broke? I like when Wilder losses, laugh out, hearing the LWBC excuses are hilarious, and his tears taste good. That's true. Jarrell is the champion in recess for the WBC and WBA, so he wants to fight. Does he skip the line? Yes, he's supposed to skip the line. But in truth, that motherfucker needs at least one tune-up fight. Rachel Donaire pushed that Inui stacking narrative, and the LDBC ate it up. It's because she's looking for any excuse to try to fucking defend her fucking husband getting beat. But what did she say about fucking the dude that beat him for that WBC vacant title? The guy that fucking Junto Nakatani knocked the fuck out. Right? You got beat by that guy, Santiago. Are you going to complain that Santiago was stacking his gloves? Santiago beat you. Right? And we saw what Junto Nakatani did to fucking Santiago. Destroyed him like he was nothing. So let's put that in fucking perspective. That's why we want to see Junto Nakatani versus fucking Inui. They stripped Canelo of the IBF So what's fighting for the IBF belt? Who's fighting? Uh, the Cuban versus the Russian. Two fighters I mentioned early on in this video that literally nobody gives a fuck about because nobody knows who they are. Literally, you got William Skull, who's number one, and Vladimir Shishkin, who's number two. It's a fight you could not do in the US because literally nobody would fucking watch that fight. Underneath of them, you got Christian Billa, Edgar Berlanga, Diego Pacheco, Kevin Saggio, and fucking Jaime Munguia. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Any of those five guys you could have put against each other for that IBF title, and it would have been fucking great for the 168-pound division. Because you could literally get the kind of opponent people would love to see Canelo fight. I know we don't like Berlanga, but like you have Berlanga fighting Billy, Pacheco, Saggio, Munguia. The winner of that becomes a fucking great opponent for Canelo Alvarez. But a winner of William Skull versus Shishkin is still a shit opponent that nobody gives a fuck about and nobody wants to watch. Doesn't matter. You're going to have an IBF champion that's going to fucking make $20,000 maybe for the fucking IBF, probably not even, $2,000, and literally no one's going to give a fuck about that fight. Stacked gloves have become the popular excuse for a fighter getting his ass whooped. Shishkin is decent, just runs out of gas. Pretty quickly Skull, I've never seen fight. Yeah, both guys are good, but neither are great. Neither have any fan base. Neither have the style to really intrigue the boxing fan. Literally, I listed all those other guys who are exciting fighters, knockout power, right? Guys that are vulnerable because their defense is not great, but offensively they're fucking dynamos. You put two of those guys, any two together, like let's just shake that shit up and drop it in a hat, and you're gonna get a way better fight than fucking William Skull versus Shishkin. That's fucking literally world championship amateur fucking gold medal matchup. That's what it is. If you look, they probably fought each other in the fucking amateurs. Why does Bud still hold two titles at 147? This is getting ridiculous. He should have been stripped once the bell rang for Madrimov. Yeah, you know how those people are. They look for any way to get paid here or there, you know, to keep the options open, the doors open. So why? Don't ask me. I told you guys all for fucking years. The root to all evil with boxing are the sanctioning body, and the best thing Turki Al-Sheikh could do is buy them all and fucking flush them down the toilet and just create a new sanctioning body, one world champion, each division. That's it. Where did they dig McCrumbie up from? I fucking don't know. He's the only guy at 168 that was a PBC fighter that they could fucking put in the ring with Caleb Plant. But like, talk about a fucking fight no one gives a shit about. Literally. This fight, I think, is going to be good. This probably is going to be the best fight on the card. Lindolf Delgado, 20-0, 15 KOs, tough Mexican fighter, 29 years old, 5'9", with a 68-inch reach, good power. Obviously a guy that, right, signed with that Swiss Jewish fucking promoter guy that used to represent Golden Boy years ago and robbed fucking all the fighters for the PBC, Schaefer. And after signing with Schaefer, really sort of fell into invisibility. And now he's back on the map, and he's fighting this kid, Brian Flores, 26-0-1, 15 KOs, 28-year-old from Mexico, right? You know, this should be a really good matchup. You know, Flores is going to bring it. Lindolf is a good fighter, a lot of skills. Look at the last time Flores, you know, Flores has one draw and no losses in his career. And you look at his resume, you know, him beating this guy that was 21-1 and this guy 19-2 is better than anything on fucking McCrumbie's resume. Right? So, you know, that in itself speaks volumes. But yeah, it should be a good matchup. Then, of course, you have the fighter I hate the most, Vito Melenicki Jr., a fucking PBC fighter that was garbage, fighting Laszlo Toth. Laszlo is the guy in Europe everybody fights to get a name and some experience on their resume. That's the kind of guy Victor Malenicki Jr. is facing. You're pulling a dude that is like literally, what do you call it? Fucking a guy that protects the gate, a gatekeeper. There you go. You're pulling a European gatekeeper over to fight him, as if somehow this is an interesting matchup, right? And you look at Toth, he is what he is, 32-8-2, knocked out twice, 20 KOs, Hungarian fighter, 36 years old. Literally, he lost to a guy who was 13-1 in 2023. He beat a guy in his last fight who was making his debut. I mean, literally, this is the quality of opponent fucking Malenicki is fighting. Garbage. Like, straight up garbage. Arnold Kagi, not a bad fighter, but where has he been? 21-1-1, 13 KOs. I mean, he fought last year. He's been busy. But since he lost to Stephen Fulton, he's kind of been, nowhere fucking to be seen. Yet he was one of Stephen Fulton's best wins on his resume. Now he's fighting this guy, Belmer Petitius, 22-7-1, literally coming off of back-to-back losses, right? Like, these cards, at the end of the day, you can't really be very excited about them. They're mostly just showcase fights. Showcase fight cards, right? With maybe Lopez and Leo, Bryant, Flores versus Delgado being the only two interesting fights on the card. Obviously, Ortiz versus fucking what's his face, and that's about all. And then a bunch of women fights that only Ring IQ is going to be watching, because I'm not really going to be watching. IBF should be the only belt that actually strips at the right time. Come on, John Sean, you're fucking retarded. You always say the stupidest shit. I mean, we can guarantee you're going to fucking say something fucking ridiculous. Literally. Yet you didn't fucking tell them to strip Errol Spence when he was blatantly ducking his mandatory, or Charlo when he fucking was blatantly ducking his mandatory. Both of those guys blatantly ducked their IBF mandatory for over 3 years, and not once did the IBF strip them. But you didn't have a problem with that, did you? Because you're a fanboy, a dick rider, who says fucking shit that is just stupid and ridiculous every time you open your mouth. Literally. I thought he lost to Shinir Bunch. That was on Showtime, I think. Tio would be a nice stay busy fight for Bud. Oh, fuck. Fuck Tio. Tio should be fighting somebody at 140. Fight somebody at 140. Do something in that weight class. Go fight fucking the Australian kid to unify titles. Or go fight fucking Valenzuela, who just became the champion there. Like, come on, man. Nobody wants to see him jump up 2 weight divisions to get knocked out by Bud Crawford. Do you really think Shakur Stevenson happens next? You made a video on it. Not anymore, because obviously fucking Tank Davis ain't interested in making a big fight. Pitbull needs to go back to 135. He was exposed. I remember when the whole Fulton Inouye thing, and I was talking to LDBC, and they said, name 4 Inouye opponents outside of Donaire. Easy. But then I said, name 4 Fulton opponents. Laugh out loud. His face. Yeah, well, that's the stupidity with these fucking kind of guys. They continuously say the stupidest shit, like Sean John. Yet, all they're doing is fucking really showing really their boxing knowledge, or their lack of boxing knowledge. John does it all the time. You can't name anybody that Roman Gonzalez fought. And then he goes back and uses Estrada before he fought Roman Gonzalez and to criticize him as an opponent. Yet we see blatantly what Estrada has done after that fight and what he's done to become a future Hall of Famer. So it doesn't matter what he did before. What matters is what he did after. That's what shows him as a great opponent for Roman Gonzalez. The fact that he went on to become a future Hall of Famer. Unlike really anybody on Tank Davis's resume. I don't understand why Lubin didn't take the Tim Tszyu fight. He didn't want to go to Australia. He thinks he's the A side. I'm more pumped about Marco Vecchi going for gold next Friday than some of the professional boxing cars, except Virgil, and I will be there live. Who is Marco Verde? He's the Mexican amateur, right? So he's in the gold medal match. That's good because everything I've heard about him, they're saying he's fucking the real deal, the next great Mexican. So it'll be great if he wins a gold and then comes into the pro game, something the Americans haven't done since Andre fucking Ward. Did you check out the Nello Berlanga press conference? Nello had been hilarious. I think fucking Canelo Alvarez, since he's become more of an English speaker, has been fucking hilarious. Even his back and forth with Turki Al-Sheikh, right? He's funny, man. His personality is really coming out. John Myers. See, again, you talk stupid bullshit. Literally, let's break this down. When Roman Gonzalez was the biggest name in small weight boxing, was a legend in Japan because he was promoted by a promotional company in Japan, fought in Japan, built his whole initial beginning of his career in Japan. Inoue skipped from 108 to 115 to take on a 40-year-old instead of facing Roman Gonzalez, ducking Roman Gonzalez. And then at 115 pounds, literally went in that division, fought 7 or 8 fucking defenses of his belt, and not once fought one legitimate fucking opponent at 115. Him and Roman Gonzalez were going to fight, but then Roman Gonzalez, fighting an ex-world champion and one of the top guys in the division, unlike anything Inoue did in that division, lost a terrible decision to Rungvisai, a fight where he clearly beat Rungvisai, was forced to rematch Rungvisai, that way not able to face Inoue for a unification fight. But did Inoue then go on and fight Jerwin Ancanjas or Estrada or Quadras or one of the many other great fighters in the division? No, he didn't. And I'm an Inoue fan, but let's fucking be honest. I know you won't be because you're full of shit. He sounds like he really wants to smash him. Yep. Did Crawford win a secondary belt besides the IBF? Does Funduro still have 2 titles? Yes, he still does. Yes, and he's in the final. Nice. Yeah, Canelo is funny. Canelo is hilarious. Sean, you may have already talked about this, but what are your thoughts on Canelo-Turki controversy? I don't think it's really a controversy. Both guys are strong-willed dudes. Turki is used to using his money and his power to do what he wants, and we see how well that's worked. He's fucking got stuff done like this that historically was never able to done, whereas Canelo doesn't need him. And Canelo said, why would I do what you want unless I'm getting paid sick fucking numbers? Because I don't need you. I get paid sick numbers already. And if I'm going to do what you want me to do, then I expect to get paid fucking well and above what I would already get paid. Why would I have to give away my independence to tie myself to you if I'm not going to get paid fucking sick, right? And I agree with them. Same reason Inoue didn't go fight in London. Same reason Tank poo-pooed a fucking Devin Haney fight. Did you think that it was stupid that they put the Bud card on at 1 p.m. on the West Coast is 90 degrees heat? Don't ask me. I mean, I think boxing fans will watch boxing, so it doesn't matter. Roman shouldn't have gotten put to sleep by that no-name. See, once again, you're an idiot. How is Rungvisai a no-name when he was an ex-world champion? A guy that literally Quadras was ducking for years. But who stepped up to face him? Roman Gonzalez. But Quadras literally fucking robbed Rungvisai's title in Mexico and then refused to give him a fucking rematch. And then, unfortunately, you know, who did step up and got fucking robbed on the cards? Roman Gonzalez. And I wouldn't have fucking did the rematch. I would have fucking said, pass. I would have basically did what fucking those guys were doing now currently at the division. Just give up the title if it's too much bullshit and go on take the bigger fight with Inoue. That's the fight I would have taken. It was the bigger fight, the more interesting fight. I didn't think Rhea was going to pull it off. Cruz ducked Shakur, De Los Santos, and Frank Martin, only to lose to El Rayo. Andre Ward resume smokes Roman's resume. See, once again, John, you're full of shit. You can't even name 5 names without looking at BoxRec that fucking Andre Ward faced. Go, 5, go. 5 people Andre Ward faced. Only 1 Hall of Famer you can list. And one of the best wins on his resume is a guy literally you spent the majority of your life on YouTube shitting all over. But now it's a great win. You know, you literally say Kovalev's resume is garbage. He didn't do anything. He's shit. But yet you're going to use him to fucking fanboy fucking Andre Ward. Right? You know, guys like you, with you, it's all race. You're not here fucking for boxing. You're here to push your racial narrative. We're all here talking boxing. Not once did a racial narrative even pop up until, of course, you came here trolling. Agreed, Turkey is acting like a spoiled child, though. Yeah, of course he is. Because literally, that's what those guys are. The Saudis have so much money, control fucking everything. They literally get what they want. They were saying A fucking side like actresses in Hollywood. A level. Go to fucking the Middle East, Saudi Arabia to get fucked by these dudes. Because the money they make is so fucking big for one-off sex with these fucking dudes. And the fucking jewelry, because they probably get paid more in jewelry and stuff you don't have to claim to the IRS, right? But they get paid such big cash that fucking A-side actresses are doing that shit. These guys just expect that when they say something, you say yes and jump. And you see it at the fights. Everyone's kissing his ass, glad-handing him, shaking his hand, trying to get in there, hoping to somehow fucking get some payola out of it, right? Now Shakur is right in there. And, of course, the first thing he says is he's going to be pushing Shakur's next fight. Great for Shakur. Kovalev beat Ward first fight. He did. That's the irony, right? The irony is John's going to dick ride fucking Andre Ward, who literally lost to Kovalev in the first fight. But then he's going to fucking use Rungvisai, a terrible decision, to criticize fucking Roman Gonzalez, right? Yet Roman Gonzalez, by everybody that's in the sport of boxing, is considered a fucking legend, a Hall of Famer. But still, he needs to shit on him because Roman's not black. And somehow John thinks that fucking a non-black fighter getting any attention is a terrible thing for the sport of boxing. Kessler, Froch, Abraham, Boone, fucking Boone. Kovalev. Now you name 5 Roman fighters. Fucking you name Boone. Give me a break. Fucking, and which of these fighters are Hall of Famers? Not Kessler, not Abraham, probably not Kovalev, only Carl Froch. Right? Quadras, Rungvisai, fucking Estrada, Martinez, literally a guy that you and other people were saying was going to Rungvisai Roman Gonzalez and came up in weight, and fucking Roman Gonzalez pitched a masterclass against that guy. Literally. Oh, okay, John. I'm glad it's not you, even though they're using your name. But literally pitched a masterclass, right? And the guy gets no respect, even though people literally predicting that he was going to get knocked out like he did with Rungvisai in that fight. I mean, boxing fans need to be fans and stop pushing fucking racial politics. But unfortunately, most of these guys are obsessed. Do you think Andy Ruiz would have performed better if his hand didn't get messed up? Well, obviously, if he wouldn't have been out of the ring for 2 years and didn't break his hand in the 5th round, he would have done better. But that's boxing. He chose to be out of the ring for 2 years because he made so much money in the AJ fights, right? So, you know, he's his worst fucking enemy. And as far as his hand getting broken, you know, Tank Davis's hand got broken when he fought fucking Isaac Cruz, right? You know, Lomachenko's hand got broken when he fought one of those first 4 or 5 fighters in his career, right? Had a sore shoulder against somebody else. Like, injuries are part of the sport, right? You fight through it, you do your best. John says, that's not me, Sean. That's a troll. That's someone using my IG pic. If I comment, it'll be from my channel. That's what historically I said, John. Because I said, John doesn't fucking do that. I can't imagine John with a fake channel. But Ward was a bum. He's not a bum. Like, I never said Ward was a bum. The problem with Ward, he is fucking like Turkey al-Sheikh. He's an arrogant fucking diva, kind of like Miguel Cotto and many other great fighters. A guy that didn't have to fight outside the U.S. when he was in the Super Six, didn't fight Boutte when he could have become undisputed because he didn't want to go to Canada, didn't go to England to rematch Froch, which would have been his big money fight in the UK, would have paid him the big money he was always looking for, but didn't want to go over and be the B-side to Carl Froch. But yet he was the B-side. And then didn't want to fight Adonis Stevenson in Canada to become undisputed at light heavyweight. Like, he had opportunities for big fights. He just chose not to take them. And now would rather sit here and clout chase Canelo Alvarez fucking from the safety of a chair behind a monitor, right? His fighting style was terrible to watch. Well, that's true. He did not have a fan-friendly style. I preferred Durrell. But unfortunately, after Durrell got fucking sucker punched by Arthur Abraham, his career was finished. I won't go as far to call him a bum, but he was about as overrated as Mikey Garcia. He was around at the right time in a weak era. Can someone tell John Boxing to unblock me? Also amazing, he lies and says he doesn't block anyone. No, he doesn't say he doesn't block anyone. He threatens to block me all the time. Literally, all the time. But, you know, it is what it is. When it comes down to it, this weekend we have 2 cards, but overall, I mean, these cards are not anything close to the cards we've been seeing from Saudi Arabia. They're just not very competitive matchups. Outside of the main event, Ortiz versus fucking Bohachuck, a guy that I could see get knocked out in the first 3 or 4 rounds. And then, of course, Angelo Leo versus Luis Alberto Lopez. None of these other fights are really that fucking intriguing, not really that interesting. As far as the girl fights, who fucking cares? Can someone, Sean, how's it going? Pound for pound king, what's up, my man? All good, all good. I'm teaching juniors, 3-year-olds. Fucking what a nightmare. What a nightmare. What a nightmare. Cute, but oh my God. My brain is rattled. Lindruf Delgado is fighting someone pretty good, isn't he? Someone not bad, Brian Flores. I said that fight potentially could be the best fight on the card. But outside of that fight, all the other fights are real cherry pick fights, right? And then, of course, the Ortiz card, it's 2 big women's fights, but outside of that, not much. So, well, it's a good weekend of boxing. It's not really going to be that interesting. Like we said, obviously, last week, the Bud Crawford fight card, you could have had 5 upsets on that card. 5. Andy Ruiz getting upset by Miller. Valenzuela upsetting Cruz. Big Baby Anderson getting upset by Bacoli. Crawford getting upset by Madrimov. And then I had 1 more. Am I missing one? I thought there was 5 fights that could have been upsets. I think Bohachuck is going to get pasted. Yeah, me too. I think he'll be lucky if he goes 4 rounds. He's going to have to come out and be very conservative early on in that fight. Really utilize his jab, control the distance, and try to make it difficult for Ortiz to get off. And then hopefully wear him down as the fight progresses, especially knowing that Ortiz has had problems making weight, and that could really be something that plays out. Kovalev being robbed in the first fight ironically hurt Ward's legacy. That's true. That and not fighting Adoniston for undisputed. Or Boutte. Pitbull versus Rayo. Not making excuses, but when Choco was floored by Rungvisai, his trainer had died. Well, that's what people don't want to talk about. He's forced to fight Rungvisai after winning the belt versus Quadras because Quadras had ducked Rungvisai for so long. It wasn't the fight him and his team were looking for. because Rungvisai wasn't a big name. They couldn't make big money fighting him. He was just a hard-punching, tough fighter. He used his head all night, caused cuts on Roman's head, lost the fight, but was given the fight. So then, of course, he had to rematch him. His trainer died between those two fights. And obviously, mentally, that plays a lot into it. When literally that guy is your father, because that's what he was. He was like his father. It's like Cus D'Amato for Mike Tyson, right? And so you come in, you didn't train perfectly. Mentally, we know fucking for boxing and other sports, mental is 80%. And then he got knocked out in that fight because mentally he just wasn't there, right? Sure, I mean, he lost, he got knocked out. Okay, we could try to fucking defame him and shit on him because he got knocked out by one of the hardest punchers in the weight division. Okay, but yet, I mean, there's fucking millions of great fighters in boxing history that got knocked the fuck out. So, you know, your criteria for criticizing him is a little biased if that's what you're going to use to fucking shit on his resume. He was a shaky chin. If people pay attention, he is dangerous, though. You mean Bohachuck? Yeah, shaky chin. That's why I think he's lucky if he gets past 4 rounds. When I walk my dog and he poops on sidewalks, I don't pick it up. The benefits of living in a poor city. Psh, where do you live? Paris? I live in Taiwan. My dog don't shit on sidewalks. She's fucking a good girl. She only shits on grass. And I do pick it up because I remember being a kid and not wanting to have other kids fucking suffer like I did as a child. I think Bohachuck will be dangerous because he does have power. He stopped Rafael, blah, 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 who went the distance with Madrimov. And Bohachuck is very skilled. Well, that's why I think he needs to utilize his skill set. Because he may be the most skilled fighter that Virgil Ortiz has ever fought. But if you're going to get in with a war, you're not really going to give Virgil the opportunity to suffer from your skill. He's going to have to be patient like Madrimov was with Crawford. I like Virgil a lot, but he leaves himself open to get hit, and he has a questionable chin, in my opinion. Virgil has a questionable chin? Really? My dog shits on grass and sidewalks and neighbors' feet. Come on. Are you going to say because he got hurt by fighting the hard-punching fucking European, the guy that also dropped Bud Crawford, that means his chin is bad? Velasquez is a fucking hard puncher. Just ask Bud Crawford, right? So I think getting hurt by him does not really mean you got a questionable chin. The fact that you took it and then went on to knock his ass out, I think that speaks volumes about your fucking toughness, the dog in you, and the grit, right? Because ultimately, if you're a fighter, you're going to get fucking hurt. It just, when people act as if guys getting hurt is somehow them being exposed, I mean, they're just casual. Because anyone that watched boxing is not going to say that Roberto Duran getting knocked out by Tommy Hearns meant that fucking Duran was exposed. It was like, really, exposed. So he could go 12 rounds with fucking Marvin Hagler, but the fact that he got knocked out by Tommy Hearns meant he was exposed. The fact that he beat Iran Barkley, who knocked out fucking Tommy Hearns multiple times, but that means he got knocked out by Tommy Hearns, he was exposed. Tommy Hearns was one of the fucking hardest punchers in fucking boxing. Stylistically, it was a terrible fucking matchup for Roberto Duran. And it played out that way. Styles make fights, man. And he was drained at 154, 147. Tim Tszyu was ordered to fight the Russian trinket holder, whose name I cannot pronounce. What's his name? Bakram Matazaliev. I think it's great. It's good that that happens because now we could get Tim Tszyu as the IBF champion as a potential opponent for either Funduro or Bud Crawford. We talked about earlier, if Ortiz looks impressive in this fight, you could make that Ortiz-Bud Crawford fight next, make the Funduro-Tim Tszyu rematch, and then have the winners match up for undisputed, giving Bud Crawford the opportunity to become a 3-weight undisputed champion. I mean, You don't need a fucking Bud Crawford fight. You can literally do something that fucking historically nobody has done. And outside of the Nui, nobody can do because Usyk's not going to do it. But a Nui potentially could do it, but potentially, right? That doesn't mean it's something that definitively can happen. He still needs to move to his fifth weight division and then become undisputed in that division, where obviously politics is a much bigger issue once you get to the 126-pound division. So, Bud Crawford could literally fucking solidify himself as, if not the best, one of the best fighters of this generation. Where are we? I would have preferred to see Tim Tszyu fight Jesus Ramos instead. Yeah, but Ramos needs to bounce back with a quality win. That fucking loss to Lubin was a really bad look. A really bad look. Virgil fight hasn't been getting much attention in the last 2 weeks because I don't think the Russian guy is that good. He hits hard, but is slow as hell. Sean, if Danny Garcia beats Lara, does that cement him as a Hall of Famer? I don't think so. 3-division champion, former unified champion, and a lineal champion at 140 with some good wins like Matthias, who was never a world champion. Khan, yes, the best win. And then Lara, who's fucking 40-something years old. I think Lara is going to beat his ass because Danny Garcia is flat-footed. He's never been that good. He doesn't have any good wins at 147 pounds. None. Literally, he did nothing but get beat at 147. Have any stray dogs ever tried to fight your dog when walking your dog? Not stray dogs, usually people's dogs. Ukrainian guy, not Russian. Yes. I think Tim Tszyu is moved carefully. I don't know, just something about him. He tried to cherry pick Thurman and has never beat one of the killers. Well, let's be fair. He didn't try to cherry pick fucking Thurman. Al Heyman tried to make a pay-per-view fight that would sell and knew that he needed to put a name opponent in with Tim Tszyu. So there goes another old retread fighter from the PBC in Keith Thurman. That's more about Al Heyman than it is fucking about Tim Tszyu. Sick toes Danny Garcia. Exactly. Lara will beat Danny Garcia, but he could get robbed. Well, I think he's going to beat him pretty easily. So I don't think he's going to get robbed. Rolly is coming back too. Yeah, and no one cares. Like literally that card is one of the most uninteresting cards fucking ever. And I know Canelo's going to get all the hate, but the irony is it's another PBC card. This is historically what the PBC has always fucking done. So why can we not be surprised that they're doing it again? Like, literally. If this is not one of the shittiest cards you've ever seen, I don't know what is. Canelo versus Berlanga, I don't mind that fight. He's fighting a hungry lion, a guy who's fucking mammoth compared to him, 6 foot tall, much bigger fighter. Lara versus Danny Garcia. I mean, nobody's watched Erislandy Lara fights since he's literally moved to 160 pounds. He's beaten a bunch of fucking bum-ass guys at 160, won a vacant title, and literally nobody's ever watched any of those fights. Caleb Plant versus Trevor fucking McCumbee. Who gives a shit? Oh, there you are. Yes, Stephen Fulton is on the card now versus Carlos Castro. Not a bad fight. As I said, that might be the second best fight on the card. Castro obviously lost to Neary by split decision, got knocked out by Brandon Figueroa. Not bad. Has bounced back with 3 fights since then. Really shitty opponents. And obviously is being set up as a potential loss for Fulton to bounce back after his Inouye loss, which is good. It's just a shame it took Fulton so fucking long to get a fight since the Inouye loss. Like, literally, that's not going to make you better, right? You get knocked out in 2023 in fucking July, and now you're coming back literally 14 months later. 14 months later, you're coming back. We know historically what's happened in those situations. Guys literally have lost, right? Because They came back in these situations against opponents that were supposed to be cherry picks, but yet haven't been active, have been fucking on the couch too long, weren't sharp, and got outworked and ended up getting back-to-back losses, right? We saw that with David Lemieux the first time he got beat and then bounced back and got upset in the next fight. And we've seen it against quite a few guys that kind of thing has happened. So don't be surprised if that happens to Fulton, even though this is the opponent he's supposed to step in and beat. And then Rolly Romero versus who? Literally, I've never heard of this guy. Manuel James, 16-1-1. Some American kid who literally I've never heard of, who lost to a guy who was 8-1-2, has a win against Moses Flores, which down the road wasn't so bad. A draw against a guy that I've never heard of. Literally not a fucking fight anyone really cares about. But of course, this is what you expect from the PBC. They got names: Canelo, Lara, Danny, Plant, Fulton, and Romero. So you got names, right? But unfortunately, no real fucking interesting fights. Not fights that really anybody is really fucking interested in watching. I know the only fight out of that card that I'm intrigued to watch is literally Canelo Berlanga. As far as Lara and Danny, fuck, I don't care. And the other fucking Rolly's garbage truck juice, man. That guy is a bum. Always has been a bum. Danny sleeps Lara. Oh my God. Again, you talk fucking stupid bullshit. Even you don't fucking support Danny. You hate fucking non-black fighters. So stop. Lara is a mummy now. Who's Danny? What's Danny done? Fucking, what's the last guy he beat? Lara is a mummy. I thought Jesus Ramos should have beat Lubin, but the thing that cost him the fight was his dad giving him bad instructions, and this was right at the time Ramos was taking the fight over. Well, the problem was he was very much like fucking Madrimov, just not busy enough. I like to see Fulton versus Figueroa rematch. That's probably going to get done, right? But first, Figueroa has got to win that WBC title. Brandon Fulton rematch 126 was a better fight than against Castro. Yeah, but it's too much to ask him to fight that guy coming off of a fucking knockout loss. He was getting close to breaking Lubin down and was about to get him out of there when Ramos' dad told him to fight conservatively. Which promoter has the best cards? Matchroom this year. Last year, PBC, Al Heyman, right? Last year, PBC had the best cards. This year, Matchroom's had the best cards. Top Rank consistently has good cards and consistent cards and great up-and-coming fighters. They still match these guys as if they're prospects. Exactly. Do you see Bud's legs becoming a stationary target more? I don't think so. I think obviously Bud's not going to be moving like he did when he fought Victor Postal, but he hasn't fought like that since he fought Victor Postal. The only interesting fight on that card is Lara Danny. Man, Garcia might surprise people. Lara has really struggled before against guys who he should have taken apart. What do you mean? He's knocked out everybody at 160. There is 15 people in here. Why is there only 8 likes? Come on, guys. Get them likes up. I mean, come on, people. You should definitely hit the like button, John, and the fucking trolls, because you're here fucking expressing yourself. No one's banning you. No one's blocking you. So the least you can do is say, thanks. John Sean has been dropped on his head too much. I'm a Canelo fan, and I can admit that this card is garbage. It's all right. Alexis Iglesias against Sena Agbeko. That's a fight. Is going to be an early night. No elite boxers other than Canelo, but I'm sure the fights will be entertaining. Well, let's hope they will be entertaining. The thing is, based on those opponents, Rolly is garbage. So literally you could put him in with anyone and it might be entertaining. Lara and Danny are both fucking old and past their prime. So you never know what's going to happen. Danny is literally, though, a 147-pound fighter, was never good at 147, and now is going to fight at 160. Yeah. Don't continue the stream, Sean, until you get 20 likes. That would be too much like the LDBC. That's on the Mimbili Sergey Devchenko fight. Let's check out that card. Mimbili. Mimbili is a man, a monster, a myth. With fucking Iglesias on that card, that fucking weight class is dynamite. Christian Mimbili. There you are. My Canadian, Cameroon, French brother. So there's this card. Can we see it? Let me put that up for everybody to see. So Mimbili Derevchenko, it's a great fight. Obviously, for Mimbili, this is a quality opponent. For Derevchenko, yeah, he's a little past his best, but he's a tough opponent. He just gave Jaime Munguia fucking hell in their fight at 168. He's a tough fighter, regardless of what you want to say. Obviously beat an old-ass Vaughn Alexander. Should have beat him. Has some losses versus Adames, Charlo, and Golovkin. But, all competitive fights. Obviously, he is a guy that's a little one-dimensional, but he's done well. Danny Jacobs was a split decision. He's only lost to really high-level dudes. So this is going to be a real test to see if Mimbili is at that level. Is he a real high-level dude or not? We have to see how he performs. Obviously, he's 29 years old. He's not super old. He's been in with that mid-tier opponent, Vaughn Alexander, Ware, Najee Mohammadi, Ronald Ellis, Carlos Gongora, Desmond Nicholson, Rowan Murdoch, and Mark Heffron, right? So he's not fighting bums. He's fighting a real good quality of opposition. Derevchenko is definitely the best opponent he's been in with. Iglesias, one of the most exciting up-and-coming fighters in boxing, 11-0, 10 knockouts, Cuban. Cubans were dominating 168. It's too bad Morale left the division. Obviously, just fought Shevchenko, knocked him out in one round. That was a great fucking win. Caceres, Reed, Maderno, Chilemba. Chilemba's old, but tough as fucking nails, right? Did Chilemba go the distance? Of course he did. The only guy this guy didn't knock out was Chilemba. He's going to be fighting this kid, Sena Agbeko, 28-3, 22 knockouts, knocked out twice in his career, coming off of a knockout loss to David Morrell. That's not bad, right? This will kind of tell us where Iglesias is based on his performance against this guy compared to Morrell. Obviously, styles make fights, but if he goes in there and knocks this guy out in 1 or 2 rounds, it's going to put him in a pretty good position. He fought Vladimir Shishkin, went the distance with him, and we know Shishkin is no bum, even though he did get knocked out in 1 round by my man. He's fought Shevchenko. He's fought good opponents for only 11 fights in his career. Then who else we have? Oh, there you go. The big fucking Russian, Canadian, 19-1, 18 KOs. Stopped once, of course, against Ajit Kabial, which was a fucking great performance by Kabial. Bounced back with a win, and now he's going to fight Guido Villanella. Guido's a good fighter, skilled, right? Coming off of a loss to Efe Ajagba. Efe Ajagba fought great in that fight. It would have been more interesting, of course, if Mal Manabuk was fighting Efe Ajagba. That would have been a far better opponent. But, it is what it is. Who else is on this card? Jai Tucker, Jai has a loss, but obviously, so this is a top-ranked card. See, this card is fucking good, man. When you think about Iglesias, Mimbila, hopefully those 2 guys will match up next. Malmatic, Jai Tucker, Abdullah Mason against Mike Ohan Jr. I don't know who that kid is, but 19-2. 19-2, 9 KOs, 1 win, 1 loss by knockout. Lost to Delante Johnson, 6-0, knocked out in 5 rounds. So that tells you right there. Abdullah Mason should knock this kid out. If Delante Johnson was able to do that to him, I mean, I don't think Delonte Johnson is fucking anywhere near as good as Abdullah Mason, in my opinion. I think Abdullah Mason's a much better fighter. So 1, 2. Tucker is fighting this kid, Santiago Fernandez, 8-1-1, never been knocked out, 4 knockouts, tough Argentinian guy coming off of a loss by split decision in a good fight against an undefeated fighter. Not bad. Obviously Jai Tucker, we know he's already struggled, has 1 loss and 1 draw on his record already. Obviously losing a majority decision and then having a draw afterwards, like I showed you. Sometimes coming off of a loss leads you into potentially another loss. Got a big win in his last fight, and now against this kid who's, game fighter. Maybe not a world beater, but probably a good opponent for the young man moving forward. Overall, I'm more excited about that card than I am by the fucking Canelo fight card, for sure. If Iglesias managed to somehow go the distance with Agbeko, I'm getting off the bandwagon. I'm high on Iglesias, but Agbeko couldn't last 1 round with Morrell. Well, it lasted 2 rounds. Chilembo was stopped by Bozdik, but it was due to an injury. Do you still think Iglesias' power is legit? Well, we got to see what he does when he steps up his level of competition. A fight I would love to see is Diego Pacheco versus Iglesias. Like I said, 168, man. There's so many good fighters. You could mix and match all of them, and we get a ton of great fights. With Morrell and Benavidez having lackluster performances at 175, do you think they were weight bullies at 168? Well, not Morrell. I mean, Morrell, I think, easily could still be at 168. But Benavidez, he always used size as advantage. He was a guy who already lost his title based on the scale already, right? A guy that easily walks around at heavyweight when he's not in the ring. Beterbiev stopped Morrell's opponent, Hot Rod, in 4 rounds some years back. I mentioned that Catterall Prograis fight, but let's keep it on subject. That's a good fight, Catterall Prograis. I think Catterall beats Prograis because Prograis does not look that good anymore. Tiger Johnson fights at a higher weight class than Mason, though. Okay, that's true. How far do you walk your dog? I'd love to see you do more dog walking videos. Right now it's too hot, so usually our walks are shorter because she's old and gets tired in the heat. But once it starts getting not so hot, then we will walk farther, and that will be something easier. Even me doing lunchtime walks now, it's been so hot in Taiwan, I haven't even taken walks for lunch. The word weight bully gets overused, or the word weight bully gets overused in boxing. Well, the problem is some people like John, who like to complain about all Mexican Americans and non-black fighters as being weight bullies. But the reality is weight bullying in modern boxing is fucking the norm for everybody. If you can do it, you do it. Race has nothing to do with it. Everybody does it. So when you try to make it into a race issue, you kind of expose yourself because we know everyone does it. We literally see everybody do it. Pacheco didn't look good in his last fight, but the guy he was in with would be hard for anybody to look good against. Well, that's the problem, right? Sometimes you fight guys and you just can't look good against that style. I was very excited about him. I thought he's a really great prospect of that division. I still think he is. Obviously, he's the youngest fighter really that's in the mix. Only 23 fucking years old. 21-0, 17 KOs, 6'4" with a 79-inch reach. He's going to be fighting Selecki next. That's a great opponent. Selecki's a very good fighter. Obviously fought Sean McCallum, undefeated fighter. Was a very tough fight. But prior to that, against the other opponents he was facing, he looked great, right? Explosive, dynamite. Obviously, none of these fighters are perfect. None of them are unbeatable, right? They all have strengths and weaknesses. That's the whole point of talking about boxing, because you never know how someone's going to match up and how someone's going to look until they literally get in the ring. And most people felt Cruz was going to destroy fucking Valenzuela. But I always said I think Valenzuela could win a battle behind a jab and controlling distance. I just don't know if I've ever seen him show that much discipline in his career, right? But he did it. I didn't see Iglesias Caceres fight. Uh, to be fair, Pacheco might have shattered his punch resistance. Canelo and Bud fans have been beefing bad. Well, I don't know why Bud Crawford fans would be beefing with Canelo, because the reality is they're not confident after that performance on fucking Saturday that Bud Crawford could fucking even go the distance with Canelo Alvarez, right? There's weight classes for a reason. Bud Crawford jumping up 2 weight divisions to get in there with Canelo Alvarez, he's not going to enjoy those punches. And there's nothing he's going to throw that's going to fucking hurt Canelo Alvarez, because nothing he threw hurt fucking Madrimov. And Madrimov is not as big as Canelo. And we know Canelo's chin is dynamite. So Canelo's going to get in there. He's going to walk fucking him down. And if Bud Crawford fights the way he did there, where he's trying to control distance with his punches, but not with his feet, eventually he's going to fucking get broken down to the body and potentially stopped in that fight. If he still has legs and can move and use his jab and try to fight like Lara did, maybe he could win that way. But it wouldn't really help him, because people would say that he just ran for the fight, right? I don't think it's a win-win for either fighter. But even Pacheco struggled with Caceres. He knocked him out brutally at the end, but Iglesias might have gotten the damaged leftover version of him. Rayo often gets sucked into a brawl. He did well to stick to his game plan from 1 to 12. It's a great fight. I think both guys are better than Mbili. My issue is with Canelo fans acting as if he's a better fighter than Crawford, because he would beat Bud in a fight. Acting as his weight classes don't exist. Well, to be fair, Canelo has a much better resume, has been in with far more future Hall of Famers. In the future, his resume is going to fucking stand above Bud Crawford's. Crawford has done things, though, that are historic, becoming a 2-weight undisputed champion, potentially maybe a 3. Now a 4-weight champion, equaling what Canelo has done. Canelo's already become a 4-weight world champion, right? The reality is, you could estimate and guesstimate what that fight would have happened like if it would have happened years ago. But unfortunately, Bud Crawford's always been the smaller fighter. And based on the time frame, they never really cross paths. Sometimes that happens. And the reality is they're both 2 of the best fighters from this era, right? But people always want to make it about race. Mexican fans making it about race to build up Mexican fighters. Black Americans are making it about race to build up Black American fighters. The reality is both fighters are great. They're both future Hall of Famers. They both have great careers. So what? What? Right? You know, Crawford's looked better recently. Canelo's looked worse recently. You know, Bud Crawford said he's never had a tough fight. Well, he just had a tough fight. Some people felt he lost. Not me, but some people did. Because some people are narrative driven. Canelo and Bud was always a silly fight. Bud don't need Canelo, and Canelo don't need Bud. Well, Canelo definitely don't need Bud. I saw that Kevin Saggio went the distance in his last fight against a guy he probably should have dropped. I'm not as high on him as I once was. Well, he's old, right? He's an entertaining fighter, short, power-packed, mini Mike Tyson type of dude. But the guy's like, what, 30-something years old, 35, 34? Maybe I'm exaggerating. 34. Yeah, he's 34 years old. He's like literally the same age as Canelo Alvarez, yet he's never had a world title fight. 23-0, 20 knockouts, 5'8" with a 68-inch reach. Very similar measurements to Canelo Alvarez. Been in with a bunch of European-level opponents his whole career. Never transitioned and fought top-level North American fighters. Right? So, you know, how can we determine how good he is? He hasn't been in with anybody that fucking resonates with any of us. and we're hardcore fans. Imagine if Canelo moved up to cruiserweight. That'd be sick. Well, he was going to move up and fight fucking Mbeke to become a 5-weight world champion. And people said he was cherry picking. Moving up from 175 to go up to, literally, it wouldn't even have been, yeah, I guess it would have been 175. Was it? Oh, no, it would have been from 168 to fucking cruiserweight. So 190 to take on a world champion. But it's a cherry pick. Like, people are delusional. Like, they act as if weights don't matter. Whereas when Roy Jones moved up and took on the cherry pick heavyweight to become a heavyweight champion, no one was shitting on Roy Jones. No one was trying to defame the fact that he fought the worst heavyweight champion available and didn't fight one of the best guys. But literally, that's what people were saying about Canelo, because literally, that's how deep the hate fucking runs. You mentioned Selecki. I think Pacheco will beat him pretty handily. Daniel Jacobs was able to knock him down. I don't know. I'd like to study Selecki a little. Selecki's smart, right? He's a smart boxer, skilled, European, not a big puncher, seems pretty resilient. And obviously, Pacheco, if he doesn't really have a good skill set, he's going to struggle. What do you think about Andy Cruz last week? I don't think he was overly impressive and got wobbled by a non-puncher. Well, it kind of puts into perspective all the hate and negativity people throw towards Keyshawn Davis, right? They act like Keyshawn is ducking him. But Keyshawn's already moved well past him in his professional career. Keyshawn has never looked as susceptible as Andy Cruz did against the opponent he was in with, who was not a fucking really top-level, dangerous opponent. He still got the win. It's still experience. He's still young, but, you know, come on. People pushing for that. Like, Keyshawn Davis is trying to become a world champion. Andy Cruz is trying to become a contender. Andrade beat Selecki too, a younger version of Andrade, though. You expect him to give Pacheco trouble. I think Selecki could give him trouble. It's a good win for Selecki, for Pacheco. Who's the better chance of becoming a 6th division champ? Bud, Anui, Tanaka, Chocolatito. 6. Anui. 126 and 130. I think that's doable. Bud Crawford going to 160 and then 168. I don't know if that's doable. Roman Gonzalez going to 118 and then 122 is definitely not fucking possible. 5-weight champion, possible. Tanaka, man, he's lucky he became a 4-weight champion. I think he'll be very lucky to become a 5-weight champion. He is young, and maybe physically he'll grow into it. And obviously there's a lot of Japanese opponents that are at that weight division. So maybe he could easily become a 5-weight world champion. Maybe Tanaka could potentially become a 6-weight division champion. He's the youngest out of all of them. And, you know, moving from 115 to 122, it's not that big of a jump because, you know, depending on who's in front of you, it might be not the toughest opponents and you're not really putting on huge amounts of weight. Who has the better chance of becoming, oh, there we go. Yep, moving up a division is like crossing state lines. Roy would have gotten killed by Klitschko or Lewis. Yeah, people would have thought it was ridiculous if that was even a possibility. And people would have ridiculed and shit on Klitschko and Lewis, right? Because it would have been fucking ridiculous. Do you consider Oscar a 6th division champion? He won a WBO belt, and some people don't credit him. Well, WBO is a legitimate title. So that tells you what you need to know. Anui and Tanaka. What is your favorite era of boxing? Well, I don't know if I could say favorite era. Obviously, when you're younger, stuff resonates with you so much more. But obviously now the access to boxing is unbelievable. You know, when I used to sit down with Ring Magazine and make up fights in the divisions of who I'd like to see fight who, just so I could get to see all these guys match up and these dream matchups of fighters, you know, I could dream it, but now I actually get to see it. So I kind of have to say now is the best era. And the fact that I have so many people I can talk about the sport with is great, right? When I was a kid, outside of my dad and my grandfather, nobody fucking paid attention to boxing. None of my friends I played basketball with cared about boxing. Then when I moved to university, nobody cared about boxing. I mean, I had a friend that I used to go to the gym with, but he wasn't a boxing fan. He was going to the gym because he grew up a nerdy, geeky fucking kid and wanted to, be able to defend himself if that happened. But he didn't know anything about boxing per se. And then obviously, only now. So I would have to say now. Inui and Tanaka, what is your favorite year of boxing? Tanaka is still young. I can see him getting a belt at 118. I didn't see the Cruz Moran fight. Didn't he stop him? He did, but he got hurt on 2 occasions, pretty noticeably. I said 5 division champ. Did you say 5 or 6? Man, Tanaka would beat Nishida. I don't think he would beat Nishida. Nishida is a good boxer, and Tanaka is fucking not a good boxer. I want to see Donaire Chocolatito. It's a good fight, right? I mean, money-wise, that fight sells. I'd prefer to see Roman fight one of the 2 Japanese guys to become a 5-weight world champion because I think that's more historic. Undefeated fighter, world champion, become a 5-weight champion. You face Donaire. He just got beat by Santiago. What do you think about the Quiet Storm at 140? Who's the Quiet Storm? The name sounds familiar. Oh, the blind kid. Yeah, I don't know much about him. Good story behind him. I know he had a big win, an upset win, but outside of that, I'm not familiar with him. 140 is a shambles right now, truthfully. John Ruiz has beat Holyfield, so it was a great opportunity for Roy to jump up. Yeah, but fucking Matthias Pitbull, Gary Antoine Russell, all losing. After his loss to Roy, he went on to beat Galata and Rahman. I know. Not to mention Josh Taylor, Pro Grace, not being those killers we thought they were. Nishida has no pop. Yeah, no pop. But he's a good boxer, right? What's his face has no pop either. And he's easy to fucking hit. And he's going to be moving up to 118. So I definitely don't think it's an easy fight for him. If Pitbull stays at 140, I'd like to see him fight Gary Antoine Russell. Julian Smith is deaf. Yes, deaf. Did I say blind? That would be even more impressive. The blind boxer. You got to tie bells to his opponent. But my man Joseph Parker is just being left out to cold. That ain't true. He's getting tons of opportunity thanks to Turki Al-Sheikh. But the question is, who's he going to get next? He's going to get a big opponent, but maybe it's going to be somebody he don't want to fight, somebody too good. I'd like to see him fight the Turkish guy who beat Makhmudov. I think that guy beats the piss out of Joe Parker. I think that guy is the guy that's been out in the cold. Ever since he beat Derek Chisora, he's fucking sort of been ignored by the majority of boxing promoters and fighters. I think a good fight the PBC should pursue is Russell, Cruz, or maybe throw De Los Santos in the mix. Someone beat me to it. Hit the like button and subscribe. Exactly, people. The least you can do is help a brother out. When do you get so much unbiased boxing talk, just chopping up boxing on a very social, accepting platform? I don't know if there's any platform outside of maybe Boxing Wave, Ring IQ. I don't really roll too much with that whole group of people. A lot of inside jokes, a lot of stuff that I think is just pop culture banter. Not so much boxing, so it doesn't really intrigue me so much. But Wave, outside of him, who? You can tell me if you have better things, then maybe I can go watch them. We are the world. Yes, we are. David Esther is a good stylistic matchup. I honestly didn't think Cruz was going to lose to Valenzuela. Most people didn't. I have always thought Raya should rematch De Los Santos. It was a good fight until it lasted. Well, that was where he definitely got pulled into the wrong style of fight, right? The question is now what's going to happen to him. It sounds like Pitbull is going to force a rematch between him and Ryo. Skills boxing, the modern martial artist. Never heard of it. Is that a channel? Skills boxing, the modern martial artist. I don't really like the name. Skills boxing, the modern martial artist. This guy. I thought Villanueva beat Colbert in the first fight. It wasn't the worst robbery, and Venezuela seemed on the downside of his career. He did bounce back, though, and got the big win. It seems to boxing breakdown type of channel. Not so much about banter and fight breakdowns, but mostly about boxing breakdown. But I'll check it out when I have a chance. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I will be back obviously this weekend. Are any of these fight cards on DAZN? I guess the Virgil Ortiz fight is on DAZN. So if that's the case, I'll probably go live for a live watch along for that. Even though those girl fights, don't be surprised if I just turn on late to watch the last two fights, because I'm not too intrigued by watching those two female boxing matchups. Not at all. Like, who are those cards again? Oh, too many girl fights. So I get to see Priest, Conwell, and Sims take a nap and then watch Virgil Ortiz. Yeah, that's kind of a shit setup that they force feed the two girl fights in there. But, you know, at least it's on DAZN. Unlike the other fight card, which is on Top Rank, and obviously I can't watch it unless it's on a stream. So maybe I'll pull a stream on my iPad and do sort of that kind of thing. We will see how it works out. But cheers, everyone. Thanks for watching. I'm going to shower. It's been a long, stinky day. And I will see you guys this weekend. So peace out. Enjoy your week. And see you soon. Ciao for now.